Hi, welcome to the gun room. Look at this. I'm absolutely surrounded. We've got Nick. How are you, Nick?
Hey guys, yeah, I'm good. I'm a little depressed with the World Cup here, surprisingly, because all I want to do is watch Tedda's Tricky Reds, cable topping Tricky Reds. That is.
Yes, we'll talk about the World Cup. It's a pain in the bum, isn't it, really, coming in at this time? Thomas, first time on show. Do you prefer Tom or Thomas?
I honestly don't mind, guys. Call me whatever you want.
Congratulations on the name anyway, Tom. That's a superb name you've got going on there. Ben, first
Thank you.
time on the podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Excited to be here. Glad I'm inside and
Well, don't be
avoiding
too
the snow.
excited. This is about as good as it gets. And my main man down there in his office, Jay. How are you, Jay?
All good, thanks. All good.
Splendid, splendid. I love it all.
Mm.
Yeah, we'll get cracking. Oh, I'll talk about that after we're off the pod. Well, top of the Premier League for the first time since 2007, 2008 at this time at Christmas. 4 goals behind Man City. That's all we are, and it's all looking peachy, isn't it? We're going to cover the Brighton game, and we'll kind of skip over it a little bit because it was a bit of a washout. But we'll find out how you feel about the Carabao Cup. Some people are upset by it being an early exit, and some people are not bothered. This one. Wolves as well. We're going to talk about that. But first off, I haven't got the party hat, but it's Thomas Vermaalen's birthday and Jens Lehmann. Let's have a quick reminisce if anyone remembers. Jay, Jens Lehmann, give us a couple of words about that guy.
Yeah, Mad Jens. Yeah, what a great keeper. Crazy.
Mad as box from.
Always up to stuff. Always up to his little antics. But he was a key member of that Invincibles team. Crazy as they come, but great goalkeeping nonetheless, and great mentality. Led by example, but just a complete nutcase, which I loved.
You never knew what you were going to get from him, did you? He was, quite placid at times, or he seemed it, and then he just kind of lost the plot. He was on a very short fuse. Anyone else remember Jens Lehmann?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, no, you did, Tom?
Yeah. The year I remember the most about him was the year we got to the final of the Champions League, and he was on incredible high because, let's be honest, he was incredible during that campaign, but then he got sent off in the final, which was, obviously ruined that for him. Yeah, but that season alone, he was incredible. He really was, especially the game against Real Madrid, the 0-0 at Highbury. But yeah, for some reason, because the year before that, I think he got pushed out by Almunia. I think Wenger let him recharge his batteries, and then he came back into the fold and he was incredible. And he got picked for Germany in the 2006 World Cup. So he had a good legacy after all, to be honest.
Funny you mentioned Almunia. My overwhelming, I mean, he was a good shot stopper, Almunia, but he had this tiny little dog and it had a little fur coat on it. That's all I remember about him. Right then, the World Cup that's coming about is nearly upon us. Nick, what's your thoughts about this World Cup? It sucks, doesn't it? It's at the wrong time. It's just a money-making exercise, isn't it? Sepp Blatter came out just recently and said it was a mistake. Well, thanks for that, Sepp, because you were right in there at the beginning of it. What's the mood like? I know what mine's like, but what's yours like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll always favor club football over international football. So, yeah, especially in the shape that we're in right now, I'm sure there's some teams that are like, oh, great, or some supporters that are happy to watch something else. But I know for us, it's we're addicted, and now we're going to be deprived for about 2 months, and that's going to be tricky. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for our guys, and we'll be excited for them. Not sure about the United States chances, so we'll see how it goes. But
they're probably better than England.
We'll see about that.
Have you seen what we're sending out there?
Thankfully, Ben White made the team, and he should play. So, the timing is weird. I mean, I'm gonna have to watch almost every game at work, and it's not supposed to be that way. And it's just supposed to be a summer thing. This is interesting, and just it reeks of corruption of the highest order. So, but I mean, we're football fans, and it's more footy, so I guess that's all right.
Ben, is it a plus for us or is it a minus? Is it does it give us a welcome respite so we can regroup and refocus on things, or is it just busting up the momentum? It's going to be hard to get back into it, and plus there may be some injuries as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at the season as a whole, it's probably a minus because of the run of form we're on. I think we might be in a slightly better position than some of the other top 6 clubs in terms of who's going, who's playing, how much of our starting 11 is in contention. So if you're comparing it there, but overall, like I'd rather take a good run of form than a mid-season break. I'm never a fan of an international break, and so a 2-month one just seems like absolute torture. So
Yeah,
picking up momentum after that is tough.
Yeah, I guess the only thing is it's the same for everyone, so everyone's got the same opportunities. I see Maurizio Sarri has had his say, which is interesting. I see this November break as an insult to football. If anyone can tell me what the Qatari movement brings to football beyond money for PSG, I'll change my mind. I think that kind of sums up the mood, doesn't it? There'll be some England supporters and some American supporters, right behind their teams, but it's just an uncomfortable thing now. It's just destroyed what was a good thing. Now let's go on to the Brighton loss. We won't cover it too heavily, obviously. Jay, are you devastated or relieved to be out?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm relieved. It's never nice to lose, but in the grand scheme of things, is it a blessing in disguise? Quite possibly. Definitely the lesser of our priorities, but I think it was just another example of maybe that the squad, that there's quite a big drop, isn't there, from the main guys, the main sort of match day squad, Premier League squad to the cup squad. I do apologise. My Labrador's going crazy in the background. If you can hear him, and you might see his tail. There he is. Look.
Hey, it's nearly as bad as when my cat went past. You just saw the shadow of his tail.
So I do apologise. No, all in all, look, lovely goal by Eddie.
Yeah, it was.
By all accounts, I think Reece Nelson did okay on the night, but like I said, the squad players didn't really take their opportunity. But grand scheme of things, not too fussed about being out.
Well, it does show that we got a very thin squad anyway, which we all knew. But if we had gone on in every single competition, I think we would have been really stretched, not knowing what's going on in January. Tom, were you a bit peeved that it wasn't televised or anything? It's a weird one. You'd expect it to be televised somewhere, wouldn't you? It's like a blanket blackout.
Yeah, it is a shame because
Tottenham
I actually could have
TV.
watched it. Yeah. But I'm not really that fussed either, to be honest. Like you said, we know we have a small squad. I'm just hoping that in January they will actually give him what he needs, because this is a great situation we're in to be first, 5 points ahead. Obviously, you've got the Europa League to think about as well. So I think that's the 2 major honours we're going to fight for. And I did think about it after the Chelsea game. I said it, I tweeted it out, that I honestly think we can do it now. We're showing maturity. Just go and get the right quality that you need in January to help us push for it. And if it doesn't happen, and it's because, I don't know, the better team, Man City, go and get it, then I'm not going to be really that upset. It just depends how we come back from the World Cup. Not too many injuries and pick up momentum. I think we can do it, definitely.
Yeah, I think the tide's starting to change. We said last week on the podcast, you shouldn't really start thinking about it until February, but it's hard not to, isn't it? You're 5 points clear, you're top of the table, Santa's come early. You're just looking forward to the rest of the season, see what happens. There's some interesting bits. Where's my specs gone? There's just a few sample sort of comments. John Gregory says, I've never understood the apathy towards the League Cup. He's calling it the League Cup still. It's Cameron Blue Cup. Towards the League Cup, some people treat it like it's not worthy of winning. It's not like we've won it 20 times. Some fans don't understand how difficult it is to win a trophy. A little pop there at Tottenham. Nick, what do you say to that? Do you think there is a general apathy towards that cup? In my priority list, it's way down there. It's just above the Charity Shield, to be honest, or Community Shield, whatever it's called these days.
I definitely agree. I'd rather prioritize some rest for some of these guys, and I think that's what we did. So, yeah, I'm also not too bothered by it. I mean, we can talk about Tottenham's trophyless run as long as we can, and as far as you can go back, their last one was the League Cup, and I think that says even more about them and their struggles than anything else. So, yeah, it's not prestigious. I think it easily could have been scrapped this year. Just I almost wish we just would have thrown the kids out there like Wenger used to do. I feel like this would have been the chance to do that, but I'm okay with the second string essentially getting a run and getting minutes. But yeah, I don't value it at all. And yeah, like Jay said, I'm never happy when we lose, but I didn't get to see it, so that made it a little better, a little more bearable. And yeah, I'm totally fine with us not having more games than we do when we're really focusing on a couple other things.
Yeah, I mean, the Premier League should be the target, and the FA Cup and the Europa League. That's, whatever way you want to look at. Me personally, I'd go for the Premier League every time. If we can get that and get in with a sniff of that, then that's the priority. Europa League, obviously, and the FA Cup, because we've won it so often. It's our cup, isn't it? Might as well just put it in the trophy cabinet and leave it there, really. I don't know whether you probably haven't seen it, Nick or Ben, but there was Matt Lucas doing a little sketch, and he was supposed to be, I'm a celebrity in the jungle, and he puts his hand into this box, and it's all covered in cobwebs, and the camera pans out, and it's got Tottenham's trophy cabinet on it, which was hilarious. So, and he's a gooner as well. Ben, Darren John says we lost to the better team because we didn't take it seriously enough. Wait until the new year when we are tiring and stretched beyond capacity. We'll look back on last night as a realistic chance of silverware. We just brushed it aside. Yes, we did. Ben.
I mean, I think we brushed it aside because we're focused on bigger and better things. We're not a small-minded club, and so if we want to focus on small-minded things, then we can, but we're pushing for the Premier League. We're pushing for the Europa League. And then we have to reclaim our own personalized cup. And so I think it's okay that we brushed it aside. And again, it's Arteta showing that we maybe do need a little more reinforcement in the squad, building a little depth. And so it's working on a couple fronts that we can show kind of the guys where their level is on with that second string while still prioritizing what's actually important to this season, which is the Premier League.
Yeah, we were a bit patchy in that game anyway. We had some passages of play where we could have actually, well, apparently from what I heard, couldn't see it, but apparently from what I heard, we were doing quite well in sort of phases. But 10 changes was phenomenal, wasn't it, Jay? You kind of expected, and I'll hold my hands up. I actually dropped myself in it because I said, we should easily roll over Brighton. I'll probably regret that. And I do a bit because I don't like losing any game. But Jay, comments on that match really, and viability of that cup in general. I mean, it's one of those cups. There's a couple of cups really we could phase out, isn't there? The Community Shield or whatever. I think you came up with an idea about the Community Shield on one of the pods. Can you tell us about that? Can you remember it?
No, I don't remember.
Sorry, mate. Just killed the pod.
No. As far as the League Cup, I mean, I
do this to him every single pod, and he does something to me.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see the League Cup scrapped. I just think, I think Brighton made, just going back to the game, I think Brighton made some changes, and obviously their squad players were more ready, I suppose. Like we've all said, the squad's not quite strong enough from it's not, we haven't got the City's level of strength where they can attack all the trophies with and rotate massively and still be ultra competitive. We're not quite there yet, are we? We haven't got that that strength in depth in every position. But no, I don't want to see the League Cup scrapped. It was just, I mean, Brighton they're not a bad side, are they? Even they've got some good players still, and I did expect us to do maybe a little bit better, but I think in the long run, what was it? I think the top 5 out of the top 6 went out, something like that. So I think that tells you everything about such a a season that's going to really pick up after the World Cup. You know, having without having the League Cup there, I think might be definitely a blessing in disguise. Especially when Europe comes back, and you don't know what the squad's going to be like after the World Cup, do we? So definitely a blessing in disguise.
And the balance of things as well. I mean, if you look at it, Tottenham played as full strength side, and they went out to Forest. Forest, from what I saw, played them off the park. So good result there. Always a pleasure. But it's sad that we went out straight afterwards. Karen Williams said some people aren't real because they're calling for Arteta's head. Seriously, I was at the game, and actually the people I was sat near weren't overly bothered. It means less games. Well, that just reinforces the point that we were saying. Right, let's have a school report at the end of term. Arsenal have obviously improved drastically this season. What's the difference, Tom, from your point of view about this current side? What's the reasons that we're doing so well?
The investment in the summer, and because of people like Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, they've been at City for, what is it, like 4 to 5 years. They know what it takes to win. They've got the winner's mentality. And at the moment, it seems to be spreading around the squad. Saliba, even though he's been with us for, 3 years, we haven't seen him play until this season properly for Arsenal. And he's just been a revelation at the back. So there's another reason there. And I just think that because Arteta's had the time and we haven't, they haven't pulled the trigger on him or got rid of him, he's just been allowed to do his job, get rid of all the bad eggs. I mean, let's think about last season with the Aubameyang thing. Everyone probably thought, this is crazy, we're getting rid of our talisman. But now you look at it a year on, he was right to do so. So I do think that's one of the reasons as well. So Arteta having the time. And just the squad in general just seems in a great place. I mean, all right, we've had a few injuries, but not as bad as other years where we've lost our best players and everything. So I think that's a combination of 4 things right there, to be honest. So just injuries, the mentality of the squad, Arteta being given the time, and investment in the summer.
Nick, who looks like Ben Affleck, what's your standout sort of what's your standout sort of point of view on what's changed at Arsenal? Why are we in the position we're in? Same question as Tom, really.
Yeah, I think a big part of it's continuity. I mean, we've been looking at the Chelsea game. We played the same 11 in preseason against Chelsea as we could do in the league against them. So the patterns that have been hammered out in training, it's almost second nature, I think, for a lot of the guys. And Arteta's really got his team now with his players, with the skill sets, characteristics, exactly how he wants. So it's all on him if we sink or if we fly. And, we're definitely obviously doing well. And he's been a big part of that. Yeah, so I think having continuity in the team, like Tom said, I mean, having luck with injuries, because we've been very unlucky with injuries. I think if we have Thomas Partey last season, we get Champions League, no issues. And that was such a loss. So, I mean, so far, so good for the most part with injuries. And I pray that continues, because I think if we stay fully fit, that continuity continues. I trust our first 11 and maybe KT and Tomiyasu off the bench, but after that, I prefer those guys to not be in the starting lineup, because our starting lineup is what we need, and after that, it's paper thin.
Ben, obviously the players get the credit because they do the job, don't they? But he's managed to assemble, Mikel Arteta, a fabulous sort of backroom team, hasn't he? Really kind of the ethos of the club, but the entire club has changed from top to bottom.
Yeah, and you got a glimpse of that in the All or Nothing documentary, where you're seeing how the players are responding to the backroom staff, how they, not just the coaches, but the doctors, the medical team, the staff, like there's a rapport, there's a lightness, there's a interaction, like there's something fun happening there where players seem to be really engaged. I know Bitter Ronaldo came out and talked about how United hasn't really changed since he was there as a teenager. some of the same equipment, some of the same antiquated techniques, but it seems like Arteta has really focused on not just what's happening on the field, but really getting Conley to a place where there's like this family type atmosphere. And you see that in the celebrations on the field. You see it, all the coaching staff getting excited and animated on the sidelines. And there's just an energy building again, and the Emirates is rocking.
It is, yeah, and they've been a big plus this season. I mean, all that toxicity, can't even say it, toxicity that we had, that's all gone now. There's a real feel-good factor. Spanish Michael came out and said nobody expected us to be where we are right now. I am more focused on our way of playing, our living together, the atmosphere we have around Colney, and what we've generated with our supporters in the stadium. It's so much more powerful, which it is. There was just one more comment before we get to the juicy stuff. It's Simon Lester, and he tongue firmly pressed in his cheek. Obviously, he said, "I've had enough of Arteta. Time for him to go. All this top of the league stuff while playing well and scoring goals, coupled with unifying the fan base, most of them, is really getting me down. I want to see the back of him." Which I thought was good. Right then, let's just go to the Wolves game. Jay, what did you make of the Wolves game? Were you a bit nervous going into it? We'll do the team sheet in a minute, which was pretty predictable. But did you feel on edge because this was such a crucial one, taking us into Christmas?
No, I wouldn't say I felt on edge. I suppose there was just the added, I suppose, a little bit of pressure with City dropping points. We really needed to capitalise, and you know, in years gone by, we haven't always managed to do that. Whereas, I mean, it was, I'm sure we'll get into the performance, but it was, for me, it was a really mature performance and a confident performance. One that, you know, we had to take our time, but in the end, we got what we needed. Even though there was a, you know, the sickness element added to the team, and from what I've read, I think there was a few of them that weren't feeling very well. So I suppose it just shows just what kind of a good performance it was. So wasn't nervous. Wolves weren't, you know, they haven't been in a good place, have they, waiting for a new manager. So I was confident, and yeah, we managed to get what we needed.
The thing is with them is I mean, they had a couple of breaks which were absolutely exceptional counterattacks, but they've just got no one up front, have they? There's a few players missing, and I couldn't believe that Podence was on the bench. You know, Jimenez is missing. Who else have we got that's missing? I think there's another one as well. I'll remember it as we soldier on. But there was no surprises in the team sheet, really, was there? It kind of picks itself, and you know that if it's a tough match, that Zinchenko is going to get the nod. What did you think about the performance, Nick? I nearly called you Ben again then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we obviously weren't at our best, but it was still controlled in a lot of areas. And it's one of these to where if we do win the league, we look back and just be like, we had to have that. And certain guys stepped up in certain moments. And, you know, Fabio Vieira had a huge role to play coming on so early. Jesus not firing in front of goal. So a couple just different narratives in play at this time of year. But I thought it was a professional performance. I thought we defended generally quite well. And if we can do that, then we're always going to have a chance to win. It just gets to a point where, like, are we going to have enough time to create enough chances to pop one in? And it just took a moment of brilliance from Jesus and Vieira to break it open. And then after that, I didn't think we'd be looking back. But yeah, Ramsdale, White continuing their great form. Martin Odegaard, obviously bagging a couple, was a great captain's performance from him. So yeah, I think that showed the maturity of our team, because on paper, away at the Molineux is not a place that's been very friendly to us. And I mean, even looking back the last,
it's not a nice place to go. It's really quite intimidating. You've been there, Jay?
Yeah, we went a couple of years ago when we got absolutely battered. It was 3-0 down at half time and half the away end left. So yeah, like, And it's a
Old
big
memories.
atmosphere. You know, it's a big atmosphere in there, and I think we got away with yellow card midway through the first half on Ødegaard, right in front of the referee on the halfway line, and then I think it was about 5 minutes later. I don't know which Wolves player it was, but he got pulled up for pretty much the same thing. So that obviously revved up the crowd a bit, and it is an atmospheric stadium, and it's just unfortunate for those fans that Wolves have been a bit crap, haven't they, this season? And they've got nothing to get behind. They haven't got Jimenez up front scoring goals. You know, they're having to sort of watch an aging Diego Costa and whoever else they've got up front. I thought Guedes was a bit of a threat for him. I thought he did well. And Traore is always a bit of a unpredictable sort of character, isn't he? But it's like Nick said, it's not always been a nice place for us, and I just thought it was a mature performance.
It's quite a kind of depressing place. Sorry if you live in Wolverhampton, but I've not got much good to say about it. Neto is the one I was thinking of. He was missing as well, wasn't he? Tom, you ever been down to Wolverhampton?
Yeah, I've been there before because I've got family up there, but never the stadium.
I was going to say I just drove through it at speed.
No. But I've never been at the Molineux, to be honest. Yeah, and to be honest, I did cast my mind back the last few games we've been there, and I did think about it. It would be typical to lose a game like today, but luckily we got the job done, 3 points. And I'm so glad Ødegaard, obviously Norway are not going to the World Cup. I hope he has a good rest and comes back. But then again, the problem is you've got Haaland as well. He's going to have a rest from Man City. So, this World
what
Cup.
do you make about all the stick? There's been some stick on social media for Ødegaard. What do you make of that? It's absolutely nonsense.
I think it's crazy. Like, I honestly think he's a great player, and ever since he's been with us, even on that loan spell, okay, I don't think he scored many goals on that loan spell, or even create much, but you can see there's enough there to get behind. And he's only 23, 24. He's still a very young player. And I think he's been great since coming to Arsenal. Obviously, everyone talks about him highly, that he's a natural leader. He's obviously the captain. I think he's been fantastic since coming to Arsenal. There might be times, he might. The only thing that winds me up a bit with Ødegaard, he reminds me a bit of Mesut Ozil. When he has a chance to shoot, he'd rather pass it instead. And that just infuriates me. Just be a bit more selfish and clinical. But
I think that's one of the things he'll solve with age, though, isn't it? And confidence. Getting a brace in a game like that, that's brilliant. And he probably has got the flavour for it now. He knows he can do it, and he can work in these small pockets of space surrounded by people. He's got an amazing turn of speed, a really super intelligent and quick-footed, if you like. He just moves around at a different speed to everybody else. It's fascinating to see.
Yeah, I did see that about social media. Some people are just harsh on him, but I think he's been a great addition, to be honest, 100%. And let's be honest, at the age of 16 to get bought by Real Madrid, there must be something good about you. Definitely must be something good about you.
I bet they're being sick in their paella. 35 million.
I know. What a bargain as well. Yeah.
Stolen. Wolves huffed and puffed, but they lacked that goal threat that we were talking about. People were grumbling about our general performance that I read, and you're not going to go to Molineux and they're bottom of the league. They've got a new manager coming in. They've got a point to prove. You're not going to go there and score 5-0, are you? Ben, overall, I mean, some of the fans, it just doesn't balance, does it? What are you looking for? We won 2-0 in the end, but people were moaning about the first half performance. You can't expect these teams to just roll over.
No, just because they're bottom of the table, it means they're fighting for something, and they're going to be compact. I mean, often, especially early in the match, they had 11 behind the ball, and so we had a tough go of even just breaking them down, and that's going to be the formula for teams against us, is sit in a super low block and look to counter. And so in that, if you're not going to score early, which is normal, it's going to take time to create something. And as long as we have our defensive shape, we hit the patterns. Like it could take time, and a 2-0 win is actually, I think, a very strong win, all things considered. And so we're at the top now, and people forget last year, but there's a little bit of greed coming into our fan base.
It is, yeah.
We feel a spot of brightness, and you just want to steal the whole sun. So I'm okay with the victory. I think on the day, with the pressure, with the stomach aches happening, all of that put into it, I think 2-0 is I think Jay said it earlier, a good sign of maturity in the win.
It was quite odd with Xhaka. I immediately I couldn't see what had happened. I thought he might have tweaked something, and then he went a funny colour, didn't he? And they carted him off. Jay, before we get to the goal, were you kind of fearful for Vieira? He's been hot and cold, hasn't he? And people are getting on his back about being too slight, being too slow. We'll get on to what he did in this game, but did you think that was the right? Obviously, it turned out the right replacement in the end. But did you think at that point, oh, what's he doing on here?
Did I think it was the right replacement?
Xhaka.
Yeah. I think initially you probably expect Lokonga. Maybe I don't think he was in the squad though, was he, Lokonga? Thinking back, when he was brought on, I thought Ødegaard would drop further back, and Vieira, but it didn't seem to play like that, did it? Vieira seemed to sit in. We've seen bits and pieces. You know, his performance at Brentford was good, wasn't it? Obviously scored a lovely goal there, and but there's been other performances that have sort of made you realise just how young he is. You know, he's come over to a new country and playing in a new league at a very young age for big money, and there's always going to be pressure that comes with that. But I thought he did well. You know, I suppose if you look at that Wolves side, they're probably strongest in the centre of midfield, aren't they? You know, at the moment anyway. They've got some, you know, Martinho's a decent enough player, and they've got a couple of others in there, and I thought he did all right. And like Nick said, he did really well for the goal, and there's no doubt he's got quality. But I suppose a performance like that, you know, he was a key part of that win, Vieira, and that will do his confidence the world of good, because he's been on the periphery, hasn't he, this season? Not really contributed maybe as much as he wanted to, but then again, his performances when he's come in haven't always warranted a more of a push for the Premier League squad. So I wasn't concerned. I always felt that we were going to get the result on the day. We just had to just bide our time really and just sort of pass them to death. But I thought he did well, and I was happy for him that he was part of, you know, a key part of that win. So yeah. Happy.
I think it's another illustration as well, isn't it? How thin we are, because like, you know, Xhaka goes off and you probably think that we bring someone off of equal standard in, but we haven't got that person. Everyone is a little bit shy beneath, and we're having to get Vieira to play all sorts of roles. That can't really help as well. Let's get on to that goal. Jesus did his usual magical samba feat, didn't he? Nick, have a walk through that goal. It was absolutely sublime.
Yeah, the run from Vieira was very Xhaka-esque, and he definitely seemed to change second half compared to first half. It was so funny, though. Second half, he had just played one straight out of bounds, and I messaged our group text and was not happy with how he was playing. And yeah, then he goes and does that. But yeah, Jesus slide rule pass through, and Vieira splitting through, and his first touch I thought was intentional and great, and really put Jose Sa in a position to where he had to do something. And the dink across was really weighted well. And Ødegaard really had to cover a lot of ground. Saka was already there. If you watch it, and Ødegaard really had to cover a lot of ground to get in. And I think that's just a sign of a good goal when it's tapped in. And then there's another guy there to score it as well. So yeah, really showed a moment of brilliance from both Jesus and Vieira, and to have just so many guys in the box, yeah, it's brilliant. And I think continues to show the evolution, just getting more numbers in. I think at some points you can see 5 or 6 hovered around, if not in that box, and especially once the ball gets to the end line, they're all coming in. So yeah, that will lead to lots of goals. But yeah, credit to Jesus, and a special credit to Vieira, who has had a little bit of a tricky start, but showed his quality in that. And his celebration showed that. You could see how relieved he was, and Martinelli was so happy for him, and he turned around to the bench and fist pumped and got that back and was kind of celebrating on his own. But that kind of showed me that he knows he's been maybe
shirt pulling, the
yeah,
badge tapping.
He needed that for sure, and will be interesting to see what kind of player he is, having gone on U21 break, coming back hopefully with a little extra juice after that.
It's a real valid point that you made there, because if I watched the game from last season, and basically looking at us going forward, the movement was okay, but the follow-up into the box wasn't that great. We didn't have people there. You were looking at Lacazette, who's got no legs, lack of net, more like, and then obviously Aubameyang. It was we were very slow, very ponderous. But with this, as you say, first goal, there were 4 red and white shirts in the box. And then the second goal, which we'll come into, there were 5. There are people making those runs, people taking a chance to get fed that ball that's coming through from the likes of Odegaard and Martinelli and Saka as well. So it is a phenomenal difference, and it's making a hell of a difference. When Tom was talking about what the difference was, that is one of the big differences. Right then, as we say, Odegaard got the brace. He started off 55 minutes, deprived of Xhaka's influence, but we still came through that. Second goal, let's go. I'll be with you in a minute, fellas. Let's go back to Jay, because he likes talking about goals. It was a wonderful goal, and it gives us a chance to all enjoy the footwork of Martinelli, the irrepressible Gabby Martinelli, who doesn't give up on a lost cause, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, on the night, I thought he was superb again. His dribbling was fantastic, and I think just before the goal, he went on a bit of a windy run, didn't he? And then the ball went over to the left hand side, and it was a mistake from their fullback. Lovely little back heel from Martinelli into Zinchenko, who took it to the byline, cut it back, and I think it fell to Martinelli, didn't he? And he shot, and then there was a save, and then I mean, lovely finish from Odegaard, because it's a packed box, isn't it, in front of him, and he could have easily just ballooned it over or panicked, but he showed great calmness and obviously confidence. And I mean, Thomas hit the nail on the head earlier. Like, we're so lucky to, well, not lucky, we're fortunate to have Odegaard. He's, like, he epitomizes, I think, Arteta's management. He's trusted by the boss, and he's technically so good. And in that situation, that just was a great example of not panicking, and he tucked it away beautifully right in that bottom corner. And he's a joy, isn't he, Odegaard? It's not just his assists or his guile or his passing. It's his work rate as well, and his pressing. Even this in his first season when he was on loan, that's what really impressed me most. His pressing, his high press on the ball, his energy, and he's just bought straight into he bought into Arsenal, didn't he, straight away, and he loves being at the club. I love seeing the whole kissing the badge and hitting his chest, and you love that. And I know you live in hope that it means he's telling he means it. But lovely finish, great goal, and he's excelling as captain, isn't he? And he's adding goals to his game, which is always a good thing.
Tom, talking of Odegaard, how many goals can you see this guy getting per season when he hits maybe next year? Do you think he's capable of 12 to 15 goals? Surely he's building up to that kind of level, and he's taking the strain and stress off the strikers. Everyone's scoring, everyone's contributing, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think so. I think between 10 to 15, I think he can do that. And it isn't just about the goals and the assists. It's just like you were saying about his the pockets of space, helping the strikers. Obviously help just the whole team. I just think, everyone. I remember there was a big question asked about him becoming captain, and everyone was obviously, I think everyone's choice really was probably Kieran Tierney. But you look at Odegaard, he just leads by example. And ever since he's been brought to the club, he just seems to be loving life and playing really well. And yeah, I think he'll get even better with age, and I think he'll probably get more than 15, maybe, probably even 20. Because I remember Cesc Fabregas went through the same thing as well under Arsene Wenger, where he first came in. He didn't really score many goals, but then he had one season, it was actually full of goals. And he carried through that for the rest of his career with Chelsea, with Barcelona. So I think Odegaard can definitely do the same thing, definitely.
It's interesting you say about the old passion, the badge kissing and all that sort of thing. I don't know whether you saw it. Zinchenko's, he's got his own gym in his house. And he's had this massive mural done with front and back of him in an Arsenal shirt, because he was an Arsenal fan originally. But it's absolutely magnificent. I bet his wife's really reluctant to go in there. Oh, look, there's the husband on the wall, and there again. But yeah, it just made you kind of really keen on the boy, because he's an absolute Arsenal fan. Let's do the match stats. 11 shots for Wolves. I didn't think they had that many. 14 for Arsenal, 2 shots on target for them, 4 for us. 37% for them, 63 for us. 348 passes for them, 579 for us. 79% pass accuracy for them, 89% for us. Now, transfer windows coming up. What do we need? Where do we need it? Who are we going to look to push us forward, Ben? Yeah, I saw you scratching your head thinking, when's he going to get me involved?
No, it's a big question. I mean, that's the question that's been on everybody's mind. There's a lot of rumors with this Ukrainian winger whose name I just can't even know how to pronounce.
Come on, Jay, bail us out.
Mudryk.
Yeah.
Mudryk. Okay.
That one.
Yeah,
that one,
it
Ben.
seems like
I can't do it either.
Zinchenko's wife did an interview with him and is pushing him to be an Arsenal player, and he's admitted he'd love to come play for us. And so it seems like there's some good momentum to bring him on and bring him in, which I do think. I don't have full trust in Eddie and Reece Nelson to take us to that next level yet. And so I think we could use something there. And then I do think the biggest signing for us, I think, would be a player who can push Thomas Partey, play a 6/8 hybrid role, and start to kind of elevate our midfield where El Neni can do a job. But who's the next person that really starts to push some competition in that midfield? And so I think a name like, this is a big one, but Declan Rice is on a struggling West Ham team. A player of that caliber to bring in would be a sign that we're really, really pushing and going for this thing. So those would be the two areas I would look at. The players, the names, I'm not sure, but that's where I have my eyes.
Nick, if we don't reinforce, if we bring in a couple of like 18 to 21-year-olds, we're not really being serious about the opportunity that we've got. And it kind of tells its own story. I'm hoping that's wrong, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure Edu and Arteta are looking at every possible opportunity to bring someone in. But if they don't, if we get a couple of Sambi Lokongas in, it shows that we're missing the boat a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the wrong profile. I think that might be a summer profile to look at, but we look at the Vlahovic saga last year and still think, what would that have looked like if he was in? Would we have gotten over the edge? And I mean, now our ambitions not only are higher, but we're in such a position. It's one of those things we have to capitalize on, because you just don't know when you're going to be back in this position. I mean, it's certainly the upward trajectory is looking like, man, I hope this is something that is a regular thing and we're back to where Arsenal belongs. But you have to take full advantage of where we're at now. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with American football. I don't watch too much myself, but Stan Kroenke's LA Rams had a team together and needed a quarterback, made a huge move to get Matthew Stafford, and they won the Super Bowl. So I know Kroenke's not as involved as Josh is, but I don't know. I hope that's a good sign when it's like, hey, we need to get pushed over the edge. We need some reinforcements. I hope we can use that money wisely. And yeah, you're right. I think Mikel and Edu hopefully have multiple lined up. I agree with Ben. I think Mudryk would be a great signing. Still young. I get some Nicola Pepe vibes from him, just being a left-footed winger.
Oh God, no.
I know. I hate to say that, but I mean, plays well off the counter. But I think that's the big question: can he do it against a low block? I mean, that's what we saw against Wolves. How do you break down this low block? And I think we're going to play a lot of teams like that. So, just having somebody else to push that front three and be like, hey, if you're not scoring goals, I will. And as we continue to battle across three fronts now, I hope we can give them all a right go. I would love somebody like Declan Rice. I know I was talking to you about that, Ben, and to me, it's like, why not go for it? Just splash it. I bet West Ham would be reluctant to sell, but I think he's quite likely to leave in the summer. So why not just go for it right now? And if you're him, why wouldn't you want to go to the table topping, title chasing team that's pushing for Champions League as well? I think getting Emile Smith-Rowe back, a healthy Smith-Rowe, is going to do us major wonders, because you look at Xhaka's injuries. Smith-Rowe's that first guy in, and he's first team for starting lineup quality, and hopefully he can push that front three. I mean, he could play left wing with Martinelli. He can play the Xhaka role. He can play the Odegaard role. So a little bit of an ace up our sleeve. Hopefully he comes back fit and we see a demon like we did last year.
Jay, I was talking to Melanie Kay on Facebook, and we were talking about attracting the type of experienced player that we need. Do you think that Arsenal still has that clout, still has that draw? I know we're top of the league at the moment, but overall, obviously, the more attractive side is Manchester City, Liverpool, and all that, or has been over recent years. We've still got that clout, that draw.
Oh, I think we've always had that draw. I think that hasn't. I mean, I suppose it maybe has diminished slightly. Not being in the Champions League for a few years, but Arsenal is still a huge club, still a huge name in Europe, worldwide. And players will always want to come and play for us. And I mean, the transformation over the last 18 months or so can only help that. And players talk, don't they? Players, they all know each other. They're all friends. You only have to look at the pictures of the England team and these players that are rivals on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever. They're all hugging each other and they're all friends, so they all talk. I mean, I would love a Declan Rice. I just can't ever see that happening. It's just too much money. It would be a deal that would most probably have to happen over the summer. And I agree with what you guys have been saying. Why wouldn't he want to come to us? But I think he's, I think, is he a Chelsea fan? I think, or I think I've read that somewhere. And obviously, City are always there. They have that economic power over most teams. I think we went hard for Douglas Luiz at the end of the summer window, so I think it shows that the management think we need strengthening there. So I think we'll go for somebody to like Ben said, somebody to rival Xhaka and Thomas Partey, to give them some real competition, because they know as well as we all know that there is a drop off. Lokonga, at the moment isn't ready to step into either of those two boots and put in a performance. And El Neni has got a decent performance in him, but he's still not the answer. As honest as in, and as he comes across as such a good guy, but yeah, from a quality point of view, he's not. I don't think he's quite up there yet. So I think we'll see a central midfielder. I also think Edu and Arteta know as well as we all know that this is a crazy good position that we have to take advantage of. And I think they'll be pushing Josh for as much money as possible, because I'm so reluctant to say it, if we do go and win the league this season, it completely elevates us, doesn't it? It takes us to the next level. And it's not just if we get fourth this season, yes, we'll be able to attract, you would think, the next level of player. But if we go into next season as league champions, that takes us up another notch or two. So they'll be really pushing Josh. I think Josh, over the last couple of years has been a lot more involved, hasn't he? He was obviously involved in the documentary. And I think he will realise as well just what a good position this is, both commercially and on the pitch. So I don't know who we're going to sign. I mean, obviously, I've said a few times, Tielemans is tailor-made. His contract's ending in the summer. There was rumours that we were in for him, and he's Premier League ready, can score a goal, and I think he does add competition. Is he better than Partey and Xhaka? I don't know about that. My wife's a big Leicester fan, and he isn't as well liked in that fan base as you would think he is. They don't rate him as highly as maybe fans of other teams, how other, maybe us or other clubs view him as a player. He's not as well liked, and he's not as consistent as maybe we all think he is. However, he has that star quality, and he's got a banger in him, and he's a big game player. So I'd go for someone like, maybe I wouldn't go for someone, I don't know, maybe I would. He'd be cheap enough, and he's got the quality. But I don't
change your mind, Jay. Talking yourself out of it.
No, I would. I just, I think they're going to go for that. We have to go for players that are going to improve the team. We can't go for anything less. We have to go for improving that starting 11. So God knows who they've got their eyes on, but getting Smith Rowe back, like Nick said, is massive. If we can get him back to somewhere like, the goal scoring form that he was last season, in the running in the last 20 games or whatever, if we can add 10 goals from midfield, be huge, wouldn't it? So he really is going to be like a new signing. So
he's just such an exciting player to watch as well, isn't he? It's just a little bit of style about him. He's so unusual as a player. He's the kind of socks down, running at people all the time. And as soon as he gets that ball, there's nothing else on his mind. He's like direct as you like. And that's the beauty of bringing these youngsters through Hale End, because it's instilled in them, it's drilled into them. Now, the reason I said about sort of attraction with the club was because I was chatting away to Melanie Kay, as I said, and we used Zinchenko as the perfect example of how we weren't doing particularly well when he joined us. But he's been a fan of the club for years. But he blew off Man City, where he could have got more medals, to come and join Arsenal, not only because there was a passion inside him to do so, but because he believed in what we're doing in this so-called process thing. And that's why I wanted to talk about that, just to bring that through and remind people that Arsenal are a massive global club. I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and you'll see an Arsenal shirt, plenty of Arsenal shirts, actually. If you go to Taiwan, you'll probably see them for about £5.50. Right, let's do the rounds. The most improved player, Tom. Who is your most improved player of the season?
Ooh. It has to be Granit Xhaka, surely. It has to be him. Yeah. Just Absolutely. Think about 2-3 years ago under Unai Emery when he got booed off, against Crystal Palace, and in that point, rightly so, because he threw the captain's armband or the shirt, if I remember. I don't agree with all this stuff on social media about.
If he had thrown that shirt, Tom, he would have been straight out the door. No, he resisted. He thought about it. He was going to launch it, and then he stopped short. Otherwise, I would have just said, "Get rid of him." You don't disrespect the shirt or the badge. But you're completely right. From that point of where he was in the doldrums, and no one liked him. I mean, myself and Jay over the last few years, we've just been saying, why did Wenger buy him? Where does he fit? What does he do? What's he worth? About £3.50. He just wasn't doing anything, adding anything to the club. Now, who the hell is this guy? Who the hell is this version of Granit Xhaka? Sorry, Tom, I interrupted.
No, it's all right. I mean, another thing I was thinking about, there's obviously something good about him because under Wenger, he played pretty much through that season before Wenger left, and when he actually joined the club as well. Then there was Unai Emery. He picked him pretty much all the time as well. Then, all right, Freddie Ljungberg was only there for a few games. He kept picking him as well. And then obviously Arteta is just, he stopped him from going to apparently Hertha Berlin, I think it was. He was going to go and join. But he said he needed to keep him because of the experience that he's got. And ever since, especially this season, the beginning of this season, he's just been absolutely crazy. Like, he's done really, really well. Adding goals as well to his game, and just I obviously there will be times he might let us down by probably conceding a penalty or a red. Apparently he's always been sent off with a straight red. He's never had a second yellow in his career, and I find that really fascinating. I don't know where I heard that stat from, but apparently it's true, because there's a loss. Sometimes you can see it. He loses his cool, and it obviously lets himself down, lets the team down. But apart from that, this season he's just been phenomenal. Yeah,
he doesn't mess about, does he? I mean, if he's going to get a card, he's like straight in there, and have it. Knocks the guy up in the air, studs and all sorts, fists flying. He's a crazy man. But I mean, as I say, grown to admire him for not only his football, how he's turned his football around, but as a person. Apparently, he had his bags packed and he was off. Does everyone agree that he's the most improved player? I think it's universal, isn't it? Right, let's move on to the best performance of the season for Arsenal. Nick, what tickles your fancy on that front, if you'll pardon the expression?
I would have to go with it's so many to choose from. What a great spot to be in. I'm gonna have to go with the Liverpool game, just getting over the hump of, oh man, we've been so bad against them for so long. But just showed that, I think showed ourselves, showed the league that, okay, this is where we're at now. We can hang. I thought the Tomiyasu at left back was a masterstroke, and a great goal from Martinelli to start it. And I could give him a shout for most improved player, because I think he's on the edge of stardom for sure. It's really hard to go against that for Xhaka, though. So good shout, Tom. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Liverpool game. Just I don't want to say cementing ourselves, because we're not, but finally proving to ourselves and getting over that hump. Like, okay, yeah, we can do this. And now I just feel like we can. We look at the Man City game at home last year and how well we played, but came away with nothing. And now, okay, this is a huge, one of the best teams in Europe. I know they haven't been, up to their standard this year, but we took care of them. And now it's like, okay, now I feel like we can not only hang with, but get 3 points off of anyone in the league. And that makes you title contenders.
Yeah, I think there was a few games last season where I felt physically sick. City, United, and Everton. And then as the season wore on, it got even worse. We got turned over every time we turned up, basically. Ben, what about your highlight game of the year?
Yeah,
so far.
Yeah, I think Liverpool's a good shout. I think from a performance standpoint, I think we probably had some of our best stretches of football against the top side there. But for me, beating Tottenham was a fantastic result. It was on my birthday too, and so I had a big watch party at my house. So I had a few 7 a.m. pints, and it was just a great time to party and celebrate, and just like, this is where it just felt like it built into the momentum of Liverpool too. And so having that run through, I think it was just a really good result against the worst team in the world. So,
Jay, do you agree with any of those, or have you got another one?
Just to be different, Chelsea, just to get a win there and to control the game, and to restrict them to just pretty much nothing. We should have won by more, but beating Spurs, that's just, in the manner that we did as well, the Liverpool result was great, but there's been so many, we've dominated pretty much every team, even the United game away. We absolutely, we did not deserve to lose that game.
No.
We controlled that game, and I think there's only really the Europa, the PSV game where we didn't deserve to win. I think the rest, we've started on the front foot, played with great tempo and controlled and dominated. And I hope that we can, after this World Cup break, we can start where we left off, because nobody wants this break in momentum, do we? We could have done with keeping this, keeping the games coming thick and fast, because we're in such a good position. But I'll go with I'll just to be different, I'll go with the Chelsea game.
Well, that sounds good. Tom, we'll kick off with you with this one. Player of the season so far, slightly different to the most improved, but who's your standout, gets your bum off the seat player? I'll kick off. I'll say that the most exciting one. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking about it? The most exciting one for me.
Yeah, I'm torn actually between the two defenders, Saliba and Ben White.
Wow.
And I know it sounds crazy, but because of Saliba being such a young age, and look how well he's done, and sometimes he looks like the natural leader out of the two compared to him and Gabriel. But then I look at Ben White, who's been asked to fill in at right back all season, and look how well he's done. And he deserves to be in the World Cup squad. I don't know if he'll play, because obviously they keep talking about Kieran Trippier, which probably he'll take the place there. But at least they know they've got a good option right there that can back up Kieran Trippier. So yeah, it's between them two, to be honest, in my head.
Cool. Nick.
This is definitely the hardest question, because I feel like every win we
I
have,
thought you'd frozen them for a minute. We get that odd screen bit where you just go.
I tried to unmute myself and I kept missing. You look at so many wins and you can easily nominate 4 players, and it's like, how am I going to choose from this? And it's just been a carousel of this player and this game, and so many great performances. I think Ben White has been tremendous this year for sure. And just at center back last year, I loved watching him play, but now I think taking our level up at right back, he's been tremendous. But I'm going to have to go Thomas Partey, because we are just so much better when he plays. The Europa League game that I was at, when he came on with Odegaard in the second half, and we scored, I think, minutes later, but just how much they can change. So I think more part of it, partially with the drop off that we have without him, which we saw last year. But he's been so dynamic now, adding goals. He's not clunking people in row Z. He's finding the back of the net, which with some glorious goals. But just bossing the midfield. And I think what he does allows Granit Xhaka to do what he's doing now, bombing up the pitch, allows Odegaard to control games. And he's just so trusted there to have the ball with multiple people around him and keep it. And but he also breaks lines. So he's a hell of a player for sure. And this is the player that we dropped the 50 mil on the La Liga headquarters desk to get him for his release clause. So very happy to see that his full potential is coming out. And if he's fit all season, I think we're really, really going to push.
They've got a great partnership as well, those two. They're great understanding. It takes time to get to that level, but now they've got it. It's joyous to watch. Ben, any differences of opinion on what we've already heard?
I thought I was going to surprise with the Thomas Partey pick, but Nick and I sometimes talk too much before this, and so sometimes we're on the same page. Did
he nick your player, Ben? Did he say, "Oh, I'll say that first, and if he comes to me, I'll say it first"?
Yeah, that's kind of Nick's attitude. He's just a thief in the night. So no, I do think, I don't want to forget just how transformative Gabriel Jesus has been at the 9. The way he started and kicked off our season really gave us some very good momentum, and pouring it in with goals early on. Now he's playing, just providing a bunch of assists and second assists, and his key passing is just impressing, has been really big too. And so I think he deserves a shout there as well.
Jay, what about you?
I think Saliba has been unreal, and I think the difference that he's made. I mean, he's so commanding, isn't he? And he's so. What I like about him as well is he doesn't let the odd mistake bother him at all. Doesn't even like it affects him. He just brushes it off and puts in a great performance. And I think he's been superb. But my choice, I mean, just to be different again, would be Gabriel Martinelli. He's so dangerous and so relentless on the ball. He's
Can you
growing.
see this?
He's growing confidence so much, and he seems to have beefed up physically as well. And he's that outlet on the left hand side. His dribbling is so good, and his goal against Forest the other week showed that he's willing to put his head where others might not. So yeah, I mean, there's been so many though. The whole team has been superb. You can't fault any of them, and they're all looking so confident. And it's just a shame this pissing World Cup has turned up. Really,
it is. I've got to agree with you, Martinelli. For me, I think the thing with Martinelli was he was a young, skinny kid when he came to us, and it's been magnificent to join his journey and see him, like he would do with the Highlanders, see him just transform himself, not only physically, but he's added to his game. It gets me off my seat. Every time he gets the ball, I'm excited. In the Wolves game, right up by the corner flag, stealing the ball back, getting busy. The enthusiasm, the energy, the purpose. But you can say that about the front three, really, because you've got so many options there. Saka, Martinelli, and then you've got Jesus through the middle. It really is exciting, for a change, an exciting front line. But there's so many players. Zinchenko's added so much as well. And as you say, Saliba, magnificent. Guys, thanks ever so much. I'm going to let you go about your evenings, or well, it's different for you guys in America, isn't it? You just out probably going out for a beer, aren't you?
Yeah,
Not
just
really.
about. I have to go pick up my son from the sitter. So
Right. Oh, well, thanks for coming on, guys. It's been brilliant. Don't forget, if you've got anything to say, anything to give us, it's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and you can follow and like us on the audio version on Spotify and Apple and Anchor as well. Tom, do you want to say a quick bit about your pod before we go? You've just launched a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's called Tom Laguna on YouTube. I just do various videos on obviously Arsenal about the performances on each game, or try to, but because I work in the catering industry, sometimes it's hard to get videos done and stuff like that. So if you guys want, just like and subscribe, and appreciate you having me on tonight. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. And the Arsenal Brothers podcast, when are you doing that next, guys?
I thought we were doing it last night, but apparently not. So maybe tonight. Our third member is a bit spotty, so we need to do it soon for sure. So yeah,
but it's
probably
hard
this
to fit
week.
it in, isn't it? With real life, I mean, we have problems sometimes, sort of getting around to it. So I take the problem. Jay, I've got to mention, we won't be back until obviously Boxing Day after then. But this is our second year on the podcast together. It's gone so quick, hasn't it? Amazing.
good times.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember we recorded in the early days, we were recording the audio version only, and we lost the entire version. And Jay was so patient and so nice. He just said, well, we'll do it tomorrow. It was that type of thing, because we lost the whole audio, and it's not unusual, is it, mate? Even now. So anyway, guys, thanks very much. It's been a brilliant pod. Been lovely to have you on board, and all your opinions. And I will see you shortly at some other stage.
Great.
Take care.
thanks, Tom.